In your mind, what's it mean to be in upper management? Flashy cars, fat paychecks, exotic trips, or maybe it's the power to tell everyone else what to do while you sit back and relax. Let's dig into what it really means to be in upper management. It may not be what you think. In fact, I think you'll be surprised. Welcome to Digital Decision Makers, where we talk IT from a leadership perspective. My name's James Grover, and let's dig into this. My official title is VP, Director of Software Engineering and Systems Development. So that gives me a unique perspective with regards to this specific topic. As an engineer, I used to see those upper management types in meetings all day long, carrying on, joking, laughing. And from where I was sitting, it looked like they had the good life. They made good money, they went on awesome vacations, and when things did go sideways, well, they just picked up the phone and made a few calls. I mean, what'd they really do anyways? It sure seemed like they could conduct business from the golf course, and I was convinced that they were. Fast forward some years, and now I'm the director. Do people look at me the same way? Do they think that I'm living the good life and milking my job to keep the gravy train going? Remember, that's what I used to think too, but I've learned that I couldn't have been more wrong. Seriously, not to spoil the punchline, but this has been the most demanding job that I've ever had. How did I go from thinking that managers had a cake job to saying that it's the most demanding job I've ever had? Realistically, this boils down to responsibility, pressure, and impact. As an engineer, you only need to count for yourself. As long as you delivered, no one could really say anything. People will tolerate a certain level of behavior, provided that you deliver on time every time. That's not to say that an engineer's job is easy, but it is more manageable. As an engineer or developer, you're more in control of your daily workflow. And yeah, I get it. Someone else tells you what to do, but it's up to you to deliver. And as an engineer, I delivered. Then I moved into management and learned that you couldn't operate the same way. Think about it. Let's say that you took over a team of 5 or 10 people or so. It's your responsibility to lead the vision, to get the buy-in from the team. But what do you, yourself, actually deliver? If your team is unsuccessful, then you take the blame. But if your team delivers, it's the engineers and developers that get the credit. It's kind of like being a coach for a football team. If your team wins, it's the quarterback that gets a W. But if your team loses, well, it's the coach that gets fired. Now, I can't speak for everyone else, but I can speak to my experiences as a director. So first things first, so we can properly talk about this, I need to describe my management style. I'd say that I'm a very direct manager. I have a very direct style. I'm very matter of fact. I lead by example, which means that I'd never ask someone to do something that I wouldn't do myself. So that gives you a little background on how I operate. So remember when I said that everything boils down to responsibility, pressure, and impact. The level of responsibility for an engineer or developer is vastly different than the level of responsibility for a director. Every move that I make at this level can directly impact everyone that reports up to me. I have to keep the confidence and trust within my teams. I have to be open, honest, and available. Let's not forget that the number one reason that employees leave companies is due to bad management. It only takes one incident to push someone out there to start shopping for a new job. So let me give you a real-world example. 2 months into my role as director, I lost a significant portion of my development staff. It was a pretty close-knit group before I took over, so when the software development manager decided to leave, unfortunately, several developers also decided to leave. So needless to say, I was in damage control mode. So look at the amount of pressure I was under. The remaining developers had to be thinking, geez, what's going on? Do I need to get my resume ready? And let's not forget that all the work from the outgoing developers would now fall onto the remaining developers. How long do I have before they said, enough's enough, we're not doing all this work? Furthermore, there was a gaping hole left from the outgoing development manager. So my number one task had now shifted from the normal operational day-to-day issues to rebuilding the confidence of the team. I had to provide the vision to the developers. I had to give them something that they could believe in. but I knew I only had a small window to accomplish this. Once the initial shock and awe was over, either I would have their confidence or I wouldn't, and that would mean I would lose them completely. Our developers are vitally important. I couldn't have anyone else leaving. And yes, of course, obviously, I have to rebuild the team, and of course, I needed to get a new manager. But those things take time. I had to regain the confidence of the team now, and that's no easy feat. At this stage, it was my responsibility to stop the bleeding, and any misstep could send the team spiraling. As you can see, this is a tremendous amount of responsibility. But remember those day-to-day operational issues that I put aside? Well, those things don't go away. They still need to get done. So that meant my days got longer, and you can imagine the increased pressure. Let's just say that my work-life balance wasn't so great during this time. But now let's talk impact. Imagine telling the organization that all development efforts had to be put on pause across the board due to resource constraints. What was left of our development team had to refocus and transition to applications that they'd never worked on before. And we had to do this to make sure that they would be ready just in case a production outage were to occur. So to put that in perspective, I'm the entry point for all development. And I had to tell the entire enterprise that development across the board had to be put on pause. As you can see, this is a whole different level of responsibility, pressure, and impact. But that goes both ways. Fast forward to where the teams are today, about 6 to 8 months out. We've brought on additional developers along with a new software development manager, and right now I can truly say that I believe the best teams within IT fall under my umbrella. During our transition, we were able to address certain pain points that our developers had. So now, after hearing the whole story about pressure, responsibility, and impact, you can imagine the reward felt by the entire team after such an ordeal. The icing on the cake is that we're now able to perform at a much greater capacity. We're able to turn things around much faster now. We went from putting the entire enterprise on pause to full steam ahead. We're moving so fast now that other teams are clamoring to work with us. So it's not all doom and gloom at this level. Yes, it is hard work, but success at this level has a greater impact. When I initially decided to take the leap from engineer to management, this was precisely the reason. I felt that I'd be able to make more of a difference as a leader. I'd have more impact driving the vision as opposed to keeping my hands on the keyboard as an engineer. And so far, I've been right. So let's get back to that question I asked earlier. I wonder how people see me. Am I that overpaid bureaucrat that doesn't add any benefit to the organization? At the end of the day, I sort of hope that people think of me the same way that I used to think of other leaders. That guy is just in calls all day. What's he really do? Now that you've seen behind the curtain, you know exactly what we're doing. Someone once told me, if you want to be a good leader, you have to look like a duck. If you've ever seen a duck swimming by, under the water, their feet may be flapping like crazy. But on top of the water, the duck is calm and cool. You'd never know the turbulence beneath the water. So I'll continue to be the duck and not worry about anything else. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. Please let me know what other topics you'd like me to cover in the comments below. And make sure you click the bell to get notified whenever I drop a new video. You never know. We may be covering your topic next on Digital Decision Makers.